Well, the Comedy Store has that dark history of being, a mob hangout back in the day.
Yeah, it was Ciro's before.
Yeah.
It was the Comedy Store, and there's all kinds of rumors about what the mob did at the Comedy Store.
Right.
You can just guess, and it was a different era. At Ciro's, like Sammy Davis was probably the only black performer allowed there, and now it's all inclusive, and I'm in the worst category to be up there, old white dude. Times have changed.
Welcome back to Comedy on 11, the show where I talk to my comedian friends about comedy and music, and we turn the laughs up to 11. I'm Thom Tran, and this week my good friend Earl Skakel stops by, and we talk about 80s arena rock, blonde twins at rock shows, which is not exactly what you think, and how much he likes the show Bosch on Amazon. I'm still on the road a lot the next few weeks. I'm going to be doing shows for the Marines and the Air Force in North Carolina and Tennessee. I'll be back in Los Angeles at the end of May for the Asian Comedy Festival at Dynasty Typewriter. Got a bunch of other shows coming up throughout the course of the year, so check out my website, thomtran.com, for ticket information and more. Now, let's hit it.
All right, so comedy and music. It's like when you see a bill with Def Leppard, and then you see with special guest Taylor Swift, and you're like, is this going to work? I don't know if I'm going to like this. And then you don't hate it nearly as much as you think you're going to.
I mean, I can't see that lineup working, but
Have you not seen that video of Taylor Swift and with Def Leppard?
no.
It's there. It's a thing. It happened. It's on the internet. It's not the worst thing in the world, but it happened. It definitely happened.
Well, it's funny you say that because I was at Def Leppard and Journey in Nashville. They were playing where the Predators play.
Right. Firestone Arena, I think.
Bridgestone,
one of those.
and she was playing the football stadium next door, which is crazy. But the concerts got out at the same time, so to see the older dudes of Journey and Def Leppard coming out with 13-year-old girls, I felt like I was in LA Comedy all over again.
That's
Myself
unfortunate.
included.
That's an unfortunate way to put that. This is Comedy on 11, the show where I talk to my comedian friends about comedy and music. I'm here this week with my very funny friend, who I have not seen in a very long time, and I hate that we don't see each other more often. Mr. Earl Skakel, how are you, sir?
I'm good. I'm glad to see you. That's the one thing I don't like about LA Comedy is that you and I are good friends, but we haven't seen each other in probably a year or so.
Yeah, unfortunately, paths don't cross as much as you would think in this town, despite how close the comedy clubs are to each other.
You're Laugh Factory. I don't want to say specific guy, but I guess I'm a Comedy Store guy.
Right.
And although the two clubs, I don't think they mind if one plays the other like back in the day. But I've tried at the Laugh Factory,
And I have tried at the store. There's a different vibe to each place.
I equate them to music bands. Like I would say, the Laugh Factory is, and this is not an insult. It's kind of like the Backstreet Boys. It's corporate, it's glitzy,
Okay.
and I would say the Comedy Store is more like Motorhead.
Okay.
It's dark. It's certain comics.
You're probably going to get in a fight.
I mean, those days are over with certain people being let go. But it's, I think it's just the overall black color of the building. It lends to a darkness and like the Laugh Factory you go by, it's the neon lights and
Big electronic billboard up there
yeah,
on
the big,
Sunset.
beautiful headshots of you, and the social at Tom. What's your social media?
_ Thom Tran.
So you go, oh, I'll follow this guy.
Yeah.
Get that at the Comedy Store. You can get a couple names on the marquee, and that's it.
Well, the Comedy Store has that dark history of being, a mob hangout back in the day.
Yeah, it was Ciro's before.
Yeah.
It was the Comedy Store, and there's all kinds of rumors about what the mob did at the Comedy Store.
Right.
You can just guess, and it was a different era. At Ciro's, like Sammy Davis was probably the only black performer allowed there, and now it's all inclusive, and I'm in the worst category to be up there, old white dude. Times have changed.
How is that place these days? I don't get over there much.
I mean, it's a little bit of transition right now. They there's a new booker, recently 2 weeks.
I heard.
So people are on edge. People who Emily, who am very good friends with. you know, the people who she gave spots to might not get as many, might not get any, might get more. You know, no one knows.
Yeah.
Which I think is good. It keeps people on their toes, and I think certain comics up there have gotten complacent of, oh, I don't have to do well. I'm going to get 2 spots next week anyway.
Right.
You know, anyway. Well, now that's changed.
Yeah.
So, you know, I've known the new booker for quite a long time. So we'll see. I mean, I can't answer that question right.
It seems like this town in particular, and I mean, not even just comedy in general, because the way technology has changed the industry so much, but this town in particular is constantly in flux. Like, it's always, there's a new booker here, there's a new booker there, there's a new regime change here, there's a new cohort of comics coming in and doing this thing here. And this town constantly seems like it is moving and changing, whether it's for the good or the bad. Do you agree?
Oh, 100%. I mean, probably the Improv is the only one that's had a consistent booker and Rita.
Who's been there for 20 plus years.
I've known her, I think the first year I did comedy, she was the booker along with, I think, Emily and Eric Abrams, I think.
Eric was there. Yeah, I remember the Eric Abrams days.
So, you know, the Laugh Factory certainly is, I mean, you would know more than I, but changed bookers extensively. And
as of 4 months ago, there was a different booker for, yeah.
I'd say I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
So I think the Comedy Store has been relatively consistent. It was the great Tommy Morris for a very long time, and then Adam Egget for I think 6 years, and now he's at the mothership. And Emily was there since the pandemic, and now it's Rose. So they've been somewhat, you know, consistent. And, you know, I think Hermosa Magic Club, Richard is still there.
He's never going away.
I mean, it's a great gig for him.
Yeah.
And so, and, you know, now with the rise of social media and TikTok and Instagram, an older comic like, I won't say you, but me, you know, I gotta put out a reel. I just want to be funny.
Yeah, man.
That's almost the least important thing.
It is. You know what? And this podcast is the perfect example of that. Like, the amount of time I've had to spend just today, just setting up this studio was 45 minutes of my day.
You could tell.
And I got to keep at least 3 or 4 of these episodes in the can. And I spend like a week just doing this so that I have the time and the brain power to write and then go on stage. Like this week, I had planned on doing almost nothing because I'm on the road all of May. But, you know, when the spots pop up, I'm like, okay, I got to go do these spots. But at the same time, I'm like, I haven't written anything new all week because I've spent 3 days shooting and editing podcasts and trying to get that stuff up, and then trying to do like cutting reels for them and putting those up during the day. I'm like, I can't remember the last time I picked up a guitar. And like, it seems like we have to spend so much time as comedians not doing comedy just to try to stay on the radar these days.
I mean, it's funny. Comedy is almost the least important thing to us. You have to, you know, ever since Matt Rife hit with the crowd work videos, that's spawned a whole new generation of, I got to get crowd work videos out. And, you know, some of these comics posting crowd work with 3 people in the room, like it's a little rough, but, you know, it's a very copycat friendly business. So, you know, when dirty comics were in vain, everyone wanted to be a dirty comic. And now with handling heckler videos is the new almost crowd work thing. And you have to keep up, or, you know, you just look like a dinosaur.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I was talking to a couple of comics the other night at a club who are older, like far older than me. And I'm not a spring chicken. And they were doing, the one guy was giving the other guy like advice about cutting reels and TikTok and all this. And I'm like, I just want to try out this new bit that I was working on. And it's hard when you got to like fight for spots with comics who have, you know, 500,000 followers, but 7 minutes of material.
Oh, I mean, and the new breed of comics, like what you just described are so in the weeds.
Mhm.
There was a comic the other day at the Comedy Store. I think he was on Love Island or Love is Blind, one of
Okay.
those shows. Got like 1 million followers, and I want to see what this guy's comedy is about. And he bombed for 10 straight minutes, which is fine.
Everybody
Everyone
does.
bombs. And then he comes up to me afterwards and goes, "I killed, bro. Like, I was in the room, dude."
Yeah.
Like, you and I are honest. Like, I know when I don't have a great set, I'm like, "Yeah, it was all right."
Yeah.
Uh,
Even if we do have a good set, if we don't hear it in the room,
right.
we get off stage and you're like, man, I just ate a bag tonight.
So, you know, that's what we're competing against.
Yeah.
And they will get booked. That guy who bombed the other night will get booked 9 times out of 10 over me.
Yeah.
Or you, because the theory is, oh, they have 1 million followers. Well, if just 0.12% show up at the show, it's sold out.
Mhm.
But most of those followers aren't in LA.
Yep.
They're in their underwear in Des Moines. Oh, I'll watch this guy's TikTok.
Right.
So I don't know. I don't like that theory, but I had a club owner recently say, "I won't headline anyone unless they have 100,000 followers or more."
Yeah. Never mind being funny or talented or having, 45 or an hour.
Well, I mean, I've seen it with roast battle comics. I've seen it with the Kill Tony comics, where some of those kids now do have 100,000 plus followers, but they don't have 5 minutes.
Right.
But the club doesn't care. It's like, and it's infuriating. But
Because the clubs in of themselves are just restaurants or bars with a crazy person with a microphone talking. And a lot of clubs now are just like they're trying to stay afloat. They're trying to make money. And that's, I guess, if you can put the butts in seats, great. But the problem I've seen is these people who have those followings for different reasons. They don't have those followings because they're comedians. They have those followings because they were on TV or they wear nothing on Instagram. Those followers aren't coming to their comedy club. They're not following them to see them tell jokes. So when they get booked with the expectation of they're going to put butts in seats, a lot of times they don't put butts in seats because those people who are following them don't care that they're comedians.
well, I just think it's expensive to go to a comedy club.
It is.
It's 2-drink. If you're on a date, it's 4 drinks at the minimum. It's an admission fee if you don't know anyone on the lineup who can get you on the guest list. It's parking. Now, dinner beforehand's not on the comedy club, but it's kind of part of the experience.
Mhm.
But that's, you're looking at a couple $100
Minimum.
Yeah, in LA, it's you're approaching a date night at a comedy club. If you include the dinner, it's $400 or $500
Mhm.
at the end of the night. So when you see someone bomb, you're like, I'm not coming back here. And a lot of these shows, you look at Kill Tony, those kids go up there, they do a minute, but they have a band, they have Tony, they have Red Band, they have sound effects, 2 or 3 celebrity guests or panelists. Well, you don't get that at the Comedy Zone in Jacksonville. You
Yeah.
get yourself,
Right.
and the curtain behind you.
Mhm.
So it's some of them do well, but most struggle because there's a lot of band-aids. And same thing with roast battle with Jeff and the judges and the wave and the DJ. Like, you don't have any of that. You're on your own.
Yeah.
So you can fool a club. My theory is, if you're a comedy club owner, you can fool that audience once, but then most aren't going to come back.
Yeah, then that damages the industry and what I'd like to call the art form, because then you have like a generation of people who show up to a club expecting their favorite social media person to be funny for an hour, and then they eat a bag for 45 minutes. And then you go, I don't think I ever want to do this again. You have people who are like, this isn't worth it. This isn't worth the money and the pain that I just felt.
Yeah, or, I'm a lover of 80s glam metal,
Mm-hmm.
and I won't name the bands, but you go to a show and you're like, oh, they're half-assing it,
Right.
lip syncing. They clearly look like they don't want to be there, which I get. You're probably bummed out. You're at the top of the mountain and now you're playing a half-empty troubadour. You're not going to be like, let's get this gig, boys.
Right.
But you want my money. You want to come back. You want me to come back the next tour? I don't think so.
Yeah.
So, like, I just saw AC/DC.
At the Rose Bowl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would go see them again. It was an awesome show, and for Brian Johnson, who's almost 80. He had a knee brace on.
Right.
He's getting a massage between every song.
What do you
But,
mean?
like,
Wait, what do you mean he was getting a massage? Was there a masseuse there?
There was a doctor side stage, and he was struggling physically. After every song, he would go and they massage his back or whatever
Yeah.
they were doing. The needles, what's that called?
Acupuncture?
Yeah, the full deal. But he never once phoned it in. Like, in Angus's, what was Angus Young? Mid-70s?
Yeah.
He's running around like a 20-year-old. And the bass player was jacked. And I thought, oh, he's got to be about 25. I looked him up afterwards. He's 56. So I would go back to see them because of the effort.
Right. Also, you got to respect the crap out of a band that brings a doctor just to massage you in between, not for diva reasons, but you're like,
oh, no.
I'm 70, man. Like, I get Back in Black and then back to the massage chair. I respect the crap out of that.
Oh, I mean, it made me a bigger fan of them. And they'd huddle. I think they're so hard of hearing now that they had to huddle after every song. And I don't know what they were saying, but you got the feeling they were like, hey, what song's next, man? I forgot. Like, because they didn't have like a set list in front of them.
But even if they did, they're like 70 years old.
Yeah.
The font's got to be this big.
Like the last time I saw Ozzy, I don't know if I would go see him again.
Oh,
because, you know, he phoned it in.
Yeah.
And like his last show, I think, if you believe it, is in London, I think in July. And somehow they coerced my favorite guitar player, Jake E. Lee, who they really effed over on publishing.
You're good friends with Jake, aren't you?
I'm friends with Stephen Piercy.
Okay.
Who was in a band with Jake E. Lee. But I would love to go see Jake E. Lee play with Ozzy again. But I'm not flying to London for that.
Yeah.
So, you know, with comics, you know, it's the same thing to me. Like, I usually close out the Comedy Store on Saturday nights. And, you know, it's probably the toughest spot on the show because they're tired. They've seen every famous comic for 2 or 3 hours. And they, you know, you've been there, like, at the Factory. They've got an expectation of, I'm tired, I want to leave, make me laugh, monkey man, or I'm out.
Yeah.
So I put on an effort every single time.
Right.
And I don't think a lot of the newer comics do that.
Right. I mean, I've talked about on the show, like I think the last concert I went to see was Clapton over at the Bowl, and it was a glorified rehearsal. Like, there was, and like it was crazy because like a week later I saw an old photo of him and I keep forgetting his name, Mark Knopfler.
Right.
At a concert in the 80s, they're both wearing Miami Vice-esque jumpsuits and neon, and they're just shredding. They're having a good time. They're laughing. And again, I get that Clapton's in his 70s or 80s, but he had like a ball cap on and a poncho. He came out and said, "Good evening." They played. There was no interaction with he sat down for the acoustic stuff, and they didn't play Layla at the end. Like, he finished and hadn't played Layla. And to hear, and I've seen video of the AC/DC concert where there was pyro and explosions and cannons.
I mean, all I care about when I see, like, you know, I saw Kiss at the Hollywood Bowl. Now, that's a different, I don't know if there's a comic version of Kiss, but I walked into that show knowing what I was going to get. It's going to be lip syncing a little bit. You know, sometimes they'd step away from the mics, you still hear the vocals. Or Gene would have both hands in the air, you still hear the bass
playing.
But they almost are the exception to the rule because you go into that knowing they're pretty shameless.
Right.
Whereas, like, when I saw Motley Crue on their last tour in 2015, it was out of control. Like, same type of thing, but they're like, Kiss is like, hey, you knew the deal when you bought the ticket.
Right.
Motley Crue's the opposite. They're like, we're playing. We're not playing the track.
Yeah. Didn't Mick Mars sue them?
Yeah, he was like, I'm the only guy playing, and they got rid of me. So, you know, in the comic world, I don't know if there's a comic like Kiss that's, you know, like maybe Carrot Top, like, who I think is a great comic. But, you know, when you go to his show, I think at the Luxor, or wherever he plays in Vegas. Like, it is what it is. It's
Right.
prop comedy. It's goofiness. So you shouldn't walk away going, I don't know if I like that. Well, it's Carrot Top.
Right.
So, or like, I don't know, Dane Cook with act outs. Like, you know what Dane brings to the table,
Mhm.
so you can't be, or if you go to see a roast comic, you know they're going to insult you at some point, so don't act surprised.
Yeah. What would you say your relationship is with music? How I know this personally, but how big of a part of your life is music?
Oh, I mean, first of all, I have no musical talent, so I didn't like music because I wanted to do it. I have no physical ability to play.
Right.
My friend Brent Fitz, who drums for Slash, he tried to teach me, and he's a musical savant. Like, he can play the keyboards, guitar, bass. I mean, he's really wow. And after about an hour, he's like, "Bro, stick to comedy. I love you, but as you know, comedy is it's a depressing business.
Yeah.
I mean, we lose comics every year. So music to me is the one thing I could go to AC/DC and not worry about a comic who died last week, or
Right.
the rejection that we both face. And I get double rejection because I do voiceovers, which is even harder than stand-up in terms of the hit rate.
Mhm.
So I need to listen to, like, the new Billy Idol album's coming out tonight at midnight. I can't wait.
Mhm.
I just want to listen to it, listen to Steve Stevens play guitar, and for 2 hours or whatever it is, I won't remember the audition I didn't get or the bomb set I had.
Right.
So music to me is my therapy.
Right.
And I like 80s glam, which most people in 2025 don't.
Well, you and I have that in common.
Me and maybe the band's managers.
Eddie Pence.
Eddie Pence. I mean,
He was
there's
at AC/DC.
yeah, there were a lot of comics there. But like when I go see Stephen Pearcy play at the Whiskey, one of the coolest things I've ever seen at a concert, and this, you're gonna have to look up the video to get the greatness of this, but in the Rat video for Lay It Down, there's a scene where it's a baby Stephen Pearcy at his birthday party, the little kid, and the clown goes, "Stephen, what did you wish for this year?" And he looks into the camera and goes like that. As Stephen Pearcy's band is about to play Lay It Down at the Whiskey, this adult walks on stage, and people are like, it was the kid from the video.
That's amazing.
And I've been to 1,000 concerts. It's probably the coolest thing I've ever seen. And the kid looks the same. He looks like just an adult version. Like, his
Right.
eyes, and it was just, so for that hour and a half at the Whiskey, I didn't have to think about, I didn't get a spot at the Comedy Store this
Right.
week. The Laugh Factory won't return my emails. Rita, blah, blah, blah. That's what music means to me. I mean, I don't think I've ever been suicidal or anything, but like, there's been some dark moments in my comedy life that I put on a Rat album, and I'm happy.
Yeah. And I think that's what I love about comedy. Comedy is to me, and music too. Obviously, I'm a little bit of a musician, but when I came home from Iraq and I needed to forget for an hour or 35 minutes or whatever, comedy was the thing that did it for me. I think I love, as much as I love music, I had this tumultuous relationship with music where, and I don't know if this happens for you, but like a song will put me in a place.
Sure.
It'll put me in a time. It'll put me in a place. Like there's this Irish pop rock band called the Corrs. Anytime I hear a Corrs song, I'm sitting back on a bullet train in Japan, going from Tokyo to Nagano. Like immediately, I hear the first few chords, and I spent almost a decade in the Army. A lot of that time either in training or at war, and very often, like songs that I brought at the time mini discs, because that's when I was in Iraq back in my day. I would hear a song and it would put me in a awful place. So when comedy came along and became the thing that made me forget all of that, I do the same thing. Like I will. Luckily, we live in LA where we are surrounded by. God, there are 6 comedy clubs within 9 miles of this place, and we can go and we can see funny comics all the time, and we can forget. And I think that's why I love my Venn diagram of comedy and music came together. Exactly what you described. Like you'll forget at a concert
Yeah.
about the.
I didn't think of one comic while I was up there. It also helped that there was a girl with giant tits come up to me, and I was in the pit. You know, it's one of the great things about being single. You can like splurge a little extra on a ticket. And she's like, "Are you here alone?" I'm like, "Yeah." She's like, "Can I sit next to you?" I'm like, "100% you can." But like, music really affects me with breakup songs because
Yeah.
like just on the way over here, I just put on my random Spotify playlist and the Martin Briley song. Now, he was a big songwriter in the 70s and 80s. Never really made it as a performer, but he has the best song about a breakup. I mean, some girl must have really did him dirty. It's called Salt in My Tears, and it reminds me of a certain person. And then the next song was like the Village People, Macho Man. So which reminds me of all the gay gyms I go to
Right.
because I live in West Hollywood.
Yeah.
So I went from kind of I wasn't like bawling in the car just now, but you kind of remember the good times and the bad times,
Yeah.
and then it goes to Macho Man, you know. So it works both ways. And then like the first time I ever had sex was to the Guns N' Roses song "Patience."
Oh, really?
So anytime I hear that song, I think
Yeah.
of the girl
Okay.
who I still talk to.
I lost my virginity to the Super Mario Brothers theme song.
Hey,
That's
whatever.
that's a real thing that happened.
So that's what I love about music is that it triggers great memories. Just like another bad break and bad memories. You
Yeah.
know, when a girl broke up with me, I was crying. I got in the car, I turned on the radio, and the Cinderella song, "Don't Know What You Got Till It's Gone."
God,
I'm
it's
crying.
classic.
I remember where I was. I was on 3rd and La Cienega by the Beverly Center for you. You can Google Earth it, you out of towners, and it just because that song played, I can remember it like it was 2 seconds ago.
Yeah.
So, music's very important in my life.
Has comedy ever done that for you? Have you ever heard or do you randomly just think of a bit or a funny joke that you heard or that you've written and then just start laughing and it takes you to a different place?
I never really listened to stand up as a kid. I watched more. My first comedy influences were TV shows, like All in the Family. And there was a little known show, and it's funny because it was filmed right around here called The White Shadow, which was a show about a white coach. He tore his knee up in the NBA, so he couldn't play anymore. So he coaches high school basketball in the ghetto. And it was a drama. It wasn't really, it was on CBS Monday nights. And this was when there was only 3 networks, really. So there was no FX, there was no
Right.
Amazon or net. So this show dug deep into very serious issues with a comic twist. And that was really so when I drive by Notre Dame High, which is where I went, and that's where the show was filmed at, I'll laugh. I'll remember some of the funnier episodes that's a scene that was filmed right there, and um, so I have a weird memory. I have that disease that actress Mary Lou Henner. Do you remember her from
Yeah.
Taxi?
Yeah.
She's got the most severe uh, level of it, where you could go up to her and go September 17th, 1983.
I've heard about that.
And she could tell you, oh, I was at the Kiss Lick It Up show. I was with my friend Bobby. I was wearing a blue blouse. Like it's,
I wouldn't call that a disease. I would call that a skill and a talent.
well, it is. And I have the lesser version of that. But the bad thing about it is nothing leaves your head.
Oh, yeah.
So you remember the good memories, which is great. Your good girlfriends or whatever. But you also remember every bad memory. You remember it.
I didn't even think about that, dude. Oh,
And in her case, she's gone not crazy, but like nothing leaves her brain. like I can't tell you what I was doing September 15th, 1983. But I can remember most of my bad shows like they were 2 seconds ago.
That sucks
There's a
because
lot of them.
you want to be able to forget those. Like,
You do and move on, and I can't. Like, and it also works like in comedy grudges, you know. So like that's probably the worst thing about that disease or skill that I never forgive. Because all the
yeah,
bad things that you did to me, I remember.
right.
Um, you know, when you wrong me, I lock in.
Yeah, I get you, man. You've been to a lot of concerts in your day, and I say this every time I bring this up, and I've yet to take the time to actually attribute this, but I think it was Dave Grohl. People are screaming. They're like, "Hey, it wasn't Dave Grohl." I think Dave Grohl said, "Comics want to be musicians, or comics want to be rock stars want to be comics."
Sure.
Is that true, do you think? And have you experienced funny musicians, lead singers, frontmen, whatever? Like, you've been to enough concerts. Who would you say is the funniest or most entertaining frontman or band?
Well, before I forget, I will say the most unfunny person was John Mayer once went up at the Comedy Store, and he's a very nice guy.
Right.
And he bombed for about 10 minutes. And he'd
I've
never
heard
done it
he was
before.
really. Oh, okay. So this
This is maybe early,
Right.
and you know, I think he saw me as a lot of younger comics were asking me questions that night or whatever. So he saw me as like a sage, swami to ask, "Hey Earl, how did I do?" And I just kind of looked at him. I'm like, "Hey John, how would you feel if I interrupted one of your concerts playing guitar like shit?" And he just kind of looked at me, and he knew what I was saying.
Right.
Great guy though. What's not good when you're talking about someone's comedy.
Right.
Funniest person by far is Justin Hawkins from The Darkness.
Oh, Justin Hawkins rides again.
Yeah, I love that
Love that
show.
show.
But he did. I saw them at the Wiltern, and you know everyone has their phone out now, which
Yeah.
I hate. And there was a guy in the front row being a little more obnoxious than most people, like sticking it in his face. So after one song, Justin's like, "Let me see your phone for a bit." And he takes the guy's phone. He takes off his unitard. He wears like these evil Knievel, and he sticks the phone up his ass. And I mean up it. Like he was jamming this guy's phone up his ass. Takes it out, gives it back to the guy, and says, "We're not done yet. You're going to come on stage right now. And everyone, put your phones away. This is Timmy. He's going to record the next song," with a phone that was just up at this guy's ass. And it's the funniest thing. I'm underselling how funny this was.
Right.
And then Justin Hawkins felt bad, and he gave out the guy's Instagram. So you guys have to go to this guy's Instagram to get the video of the show. And he's really funny. And probably the second funniest is Rick Nielsen from Cheap
Cheap
Trick.
Trick.
He just one-liners. You could tell he wants to be a comic.
Right.
So I mean, Paul Stanley,
Mm-hmm.
he's unintentionally funny.
Right.
So I mean, and I don't know what, you know, I think you want what you don't have. So I think a lot of musicians come to the Comedy Store. I've seen Gene Simmons there a bunch.
Mm.
You could tell he wants to get on stage,
Really?
do what we
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
And I would love to play an instrument, but that's not happening.
Who's the first person you think of when you hear musical comedy?
Probably Bo Burnham.
Okay.
And I have to give credit to an ex who, during the pandemic, was like, "Just watch his new special because it's just done in his house."
Yep.
And I'm like, "I don't want to." And then she kind of more or less forced me, and I was hooked. Like, wow, this guy's in his garage doing not necessarily jokes, but like a musical song and then a story. Outside of him, I don't know. I don't really. I mean, maybe Nick Thune, but that's about it.
Okay. Like Steve Martin or any of those cats?
Oh, yeah. I mean, obviously my memories. I don't have the Mary Lou Henner level. Yeah. I mean, Steve Martin. I'm trying to think. Yeah, I'm drawing a blank on anyone else.
Yeah. It's musical comics. Good musical comics are few and far in between. There's a little bit of a resurgence now with, I see a lot of people with guitars doing comedy. I am one of those people. But to do it at a level of like a Stephen Lynch or something like
Right.
that is those are far and few in between.
I mean, I'm a fan of you. It's a skill set I don't have. It's like impressions. I
Mhm.
just, I wish I could be like Jeff Richards, who you close your eyes and you think Louis Anderson's in the room,
Yeah.
or whoever he's doing.
Yeah.
I'm pretty much just a boring, straight joke teller.
Nothing wrong with it. I wish I could be a one-liner comic or just a setup like straight joke teller. I'm so my set. It's hard for me to do like these 5 and 7 minute sets in LA because
Right.
I'm like my setup is 3.5 minutes long for a really good payoff, but it's hard to get those spots in this town.
I mean, that's why I love closing the Comedy Store out, is I can do 40 minutes to an hour, and because they want, they could just get 3 comics to do 3 15-minute spots, but then you got to pay 3 comics.
Yeah.
With me, you just have to pay me once, which is kind of like, you got to make yourself valuable to whatever club you're
Right.
playing. So I've really gotten used to now taking your time and kind of scrambling like a quarterback and coming back, and you can't do that in a 5 or 7 minute set. You have to you have to be almost like a Jeselnik precision. Like his jokes are like laser. Like
Yeah.
there's no wasted words, or I wish I could be that precise, but I'm kind of like, I would say the undisciplined Jeselnik.
Well, I mean, it has forced me to write better. It has forced me to, churn out more focused comedy. Again, like you said, don't waste words. You're just wasting time.
Yeah, and you don't, it's like I had a bunch of friends showcase recently at the store, and that's, I think, a 5-minute set. I'm, I don't give comedy advice out because I'm not like qualified to do that, but like don't do crowd work. Don't, because you lose the crowd, you don't have time to get them back. Don't do a long-winded story that the payoff is going to be at the 7th minute because you only got 5. I mean, it's tough to do showcase sets or TV sets like 4 minute, and I think 4 minute and 28 seconds.
Really?
Like unless they've changed it. Like I saw Ian Bagg do the Craig Ferguson show. I went down with him, and it was amazing how now he's like, it was a walk in the park for him, but the precision of 4 minutes and 28 seconds. If you hit 29th second, we go to music.
Yeah.
And he literally finished at the 28th second punchline. Bam.
Yeah, that is a skill set. That is definitely like that's the thing you do develop in this town. Where you're like, okay, you have so. I remember when I had to showcase for Richard at Comedy and Magic, and I think it was a 6 minutes showcase spot, and it's from here. It's like a 2-hour drive to Comedy and Magic on a Thursday night, and it was just me listening to my set on my phone over and over again, and then picking and choosing which jokes I wanted to do that night, and then like tallying it up, and then just doing it over and over. And I think when I did that spot on a 6-minute showcase, I think I did like 5 minutes and 52 seconds. I was like, boom, all right, I'm out. And that was close enough for me. That was good enough. Just don't go over. Don't go over. I'm telling new comics or anybody who wants to do comedy, do not run the light.
Well, that's my biggest problem. Because comics, as you know, are like little kids. If the second comic on the lineup runs the light by 3 minutes, the third comic's, well, I want to do an extra 3 minutes. And it doesn't seem like a lot to people listening. Oh, 3 minutes, get over it, dude. But if I'm the 12th comic on the lineup, and the comics before me have all done 2 to 3 minutes extra, that's another hour.
Yep.
And, the crowd is dead tired. So that's, I mean, running the light it's unforgivable. But, comics are selfish people.
Yes, inherently we are selfish, awful people. What was your first music concert, and what was your first comedy show, stand-up comedy show?
Well, it's kind of the first concert was Springsteen.
Oh, really?
Prime. I mean, Born in the USA tour. I think it was 83, or I guess that would be 84 at the Coliseum. You couldn't have fit another person in this show.
Oh my God.
3.5 hour show, Prime E Street Band.
And he's still doing 3.5
Yeah.
hour shows.
I mean, at 70, like
Yeah.
it goes back to AC/DC. But back then, I'm gonna guess, what was he, 30, mid 30s?
Yeah.
Just like the sheer mass size. That set the bar for me, unfortunately.
Right.
So every show I have gone to, I compare it to Springsteen. His effort, no opening band. You know, he hit the stage cold and mind blowing.
Well, when you're going to do a 3-hour show, you don't need an opening band.
Yeah, especially prime Springsteen.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, this is MTV every hour. And then the first metal show was Kiss, Winger, and Slaughter.
Whoa.
So, and that was probably the best opening of any concert. I can remember it. You know, when that show was in 91 and you can remember the opening like it was 2 seconds ago.
Right.
That was the Hot in the Shade tour.
Okay.
So that's when the cover of that album was the Sphinx, like the Egyptian Sphinx. And so the music, or the stage lights go down, green lasers shoot out of the Sphinx's eyes, the mouth opens up, there's green lasers shooting out of it, and all 4 members are going like this. And so you can see this really cool effect of the lasers hitting them, and it's typical Kiss. Do everything you can to make people forget how bad the music's gonna be. I'm just kidding. I love Kiss, but they do a lot of bells and whistles.
Yeah.
But the thing I remember the most was, and this is Winger at the, She's Only 17, and
which is a song I had to take off my iPhone.
well, they still play it, which is creepy as you know what. Like,
my buddy Howie Simon is their filling guitarist.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So
when Reb can't make it,
I felt bad for them because as musicians, that's probably one of the better metal bands or whatever you want to consider them.
Yeah.
I mean, Red Beach.
Red Beach is I heard a story about, I think it was Richie Sambora, peak Bon Jovi, 86, 87. He goes up to Red Beach and was like, what's it like having like the most envied guitar solo on radio right now? Because he was like just doing his thing.
Right.
And Richie was like, we all wish we could do that on the records right now, but they're like cutting, solos down for time, radio time.
I mean, dating the manager from Motorhead really ruined my love of music with all the secrets she would tell me. But like, I mean, I would never say this, and I know you probably going to think I'm insane, but Red Beach is almost in that Van Halen category.
Well, absolutely.
But he suffers from the same problem that like Warren DeMartini from Rat does. Because in a lot of Rat videos, they look like they were gay pirates.
Accurate.
Well, my friend who designed their clothing is like, because I would say to her, she's like a legendary Australian designer, and she would do like Whitesnake's clothes and Rats and Bon Jovi's. I'm like, hey, where's that shirt Robin Crosby had in the Lay It Down video? Can you make me one? She's like, well, what we would do is we'd buy women's blouses and we would just cut them up. So they were all wearing women's clothing. So, you couldn't take Warren DeMartini seriously or Red Beach in the 17 video, but, Kip Winger's an amazing bass player.
Yeah.
And was it Rod Morgenstein's like a fusion drummer? And, but, I always felt bad for them, especially Winger, because when I think it was Metallica was in one of their videos was throwing darts at Kip Winger. And I think Red Beach said the next day our album sales plummeted.
I mean, I think Beavis and Butthead had a huge.
It was that back to back.
Yep.
It was the Metallica video where Lars is throwing darts at Kip Winger's.
Yeah.
And Kip Winger, I'm straight, but he was a good looking guy. Still is.
Beautiful man.
I mean, I can appreciate it. I like, wow.
Yeah.
And live, that Hot in the Shade tour, he was the opening band. He's doing like ballerina kicks. And it's like, Paul Stanley was like, get this guy off the tour. Right. And then, Rod Morgenstein had the poodle hairdo. It's like, this guy's an amazing drummer.
Yeah.
And I met Mike Judge at the Comedy Store, and I said, "Hey, I got to ask you a question, man. I'm a big metalhead." And he looks at me and goes, "Winger, right?" And he's like, we met. We, I apologize. I didn't mean, it was just Beavis and Butthead humor. It's like a
Yeah.
comic apologizing for a joke. It's just a joke, but so they're now friends, which is
All right.
kind of funny.
That's good.
So that was my first metal show, and it's funny. I was doing Zanies in Nashville,
Mhm.
and just by luck, I had a Vinnie Vincent T-shirt on.
Mhm.
Vinnie Vincent's. I mean, we could do a whole podcast on that guy, but so I go out there and I see this guy, long black hair in the front row, and he looks at my shirt and goes like this, and he starts doing the "We're not worthy" thing. Like, it was Mark Slaughter,
Shut up.
who was the second singer in the
Yeah.
Vinnie Vincent Invasion, and so that was just. That's why I love comedy, for an experience like that.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, the money's great, sometimes.
Is the money great?
Not really.
I haven't gotten to that point yet.
I will say the Comedy Store main room spots, they don't suck, which is why everyone wants those.
Mhm.
So I'm incredibly lucky to get what they call the Kinnison spot, because you just split the door with
Yeah.
comics. So it's like, if there's 400 people in there, that's a nice size check. And if you're single and you can meet nice looking women after a show, but to meet Mark Slaughter in a random show wearing a Vinnie Vincent shirt.
Never mind the two hot twins who want to double team you. I met Mark Slaughter.
Well, it's funny you say the two hot twins, because at that concert, I'm not like the greatest looking guy in the world, but I'm not a complete gargoyle.
Mhm.
And I was physically in my peak in '91, just jacked, tan,
Right.
the whole deal. And all these hot girls are looking at me. Now I'm sitting by the soundboard with this girl from my gym, and she's even looking at me going, "Hey, man, I'm with this guy, must be hot," because every hot girl in the arena is looking at Earl. So my back hurt because I was playing hockey. So I literally was like, and the Nelson twins were standing right behind me.
Matt and Gunner.
Yep, and I mean prime Matt and Gunner.
Matt and Gunner.
Even
Long blonde hair.
Oh my! I mean, like I said, I am straight as a pole. But if I were to turn, I would choose one of the Nelson twins. So that kind of ruined my self-image.
I'm glad you brought up Winger, because this is something I've been asking people. Can you separate the art from the artist, whether it's comedy or music? Because, we are in an industry, and we are adjacent to an industry where things you say and do or create in one decade or time frame, which may have been sus at the time, is just straight up unacceptable now. Can you separate the art from the artist?
That's hard, because I'm trying to think how to navigate this one without getting into trouble. I was talking with someone about the Winger song.
Right.
She's only 17. Kiss has a song called Christine 16.
Mr. Tinker Train.
Yeah. I mean, Ted Nugent has a song called Jailbait. And the most common reply you get was, "Well, bro, it was a different era." And like, you listen, I mean, She's Only 17 is a rough song, but if you listen to the words to Christine 16, where Gene Simmons is talking about a girl he's basically stalking, who's in high school, and I think the lyrics are, "That day I saw you coming out of school, I just knew I've got to have you. I've got to have you." And then Ace breaks into a solo like it was nothing to it. That's a tough one.
Yeah.
And then like in the comedy world, comics who've done some
Sus.
It's beyond sus.
Okay.
They've done some things they shouldn't,
Right.
but they're great comics. It's tough. I struggle with that the most. Like, especially with like roast battle, when I was judging or even battling someone who I knew they had done something they shouldn't have. It's like, do I ruin the show because I think this guy or girl is a POS?
Yeah.
or do I just act like, I mean, it's tough because, like we said, it's expensive going to a show, so I don't want to ruin the crowds. They don't know about whatever this other person did.
Right.
Do I call them out in front of everyone?
Mm.
Now, roast battle was a little different because you could call out
Yeah.
people and you'd get a laugh. But I do have to struggle with that.
Yeah.
Separating, like, this is a different way to answer your question. O.J. Simpson, great football player, maybe the greatest running back of all time. Also one of the greatest double murderers of all time.
Yeah.
Like, what do you, it's, and he was my neighbor, so I even struggle
Really?
uh, with that. Like, he was nice to me as a kid. Like, threw me the football. Hey, Earl. Hey, Jim. My dad's name. Man, give him the benefit of the doubt. That's a tough one.
Right. Yeah.
So that's a great question. I don't know if I've answered it.
How about this? Are there any bands or songs, like, we'll take it down to the song level, like, do you stop listening to 17? Do you stop listening to Mr. Tinkertrain? Mr. Tinkertrain was one of my favorite Ozzy songs, in the 90s. And now when I hear, because I was a teenager at the time and it was just metal and rock, and whatever he was talking about wasn't that far off from where I was in age. But now when I listen to it and you hear that intro, that, like, the bells and I'm like, oh no, I can't. I can't. And I love Ozzy.
Oh, I know. It's like, that's why I don't want to meet celebrities anymore. Like, I don't want to know anything about them. Gary Glitter. This is like going off uh, the metal tracks, but when I went to King Games, the hockey team in LA, most people don't know there's a hockey team, even though they've won 2 Stanley Cups. Every time they would score a goal, they would play rock and roll.
Right.
And it really, that song, I have so many fun memories of, when Wayne Gretzky scored the record that was just broken,
Yeah.
the all-time goal scoring. They played rock and roll. It's such an iconic memory to me, but that guy was doing stuff with kids he probably shouldn't have been doing, and so it's ruined that song for me,
Right.
and the great memories that I have associated with it. So it's Christine 16. I love the song,
Right.
just
And I feel like that's one of those songs that when you hear when you're 16,
right.
you're like, oh, I'm 16. I could be them singing this, and that's fine because I'm 16 or 17 or whatever. And that's kind of how I felt about, like, 17 with Winger. Like,
That's tough.
well, I was, in high school.
Yeah, me as well.
And I was like, this is fine because I'm in high school. But now that I'm way out of high school, I'm like, this is not okay. Like,
Well, like, when I was a kid, I had no idea the lyrics to Kiss songs, what they were. I thought Love Gun was literally about a water pistol. And and even as an adult, I really thought it was, until I think I saw Kiss. I mean, I've seen him literally probably 40 times, so I don't remember the concert, but he goes into this whole rap about, I was at the doctor's office and the nurse stuck her hand down my pants and said, Mr. Stanley, how did you get that rifle through customs? And I said, honey, that ain't no rifle. That's my love gun. I'm like, oh, like, I'm not the smartest guy in the world. I've never said that. I would not pass a Rorschach test, but I'm like, oh man, Plaster Caster. Oh, so, like, a song like Christine 16 at 56, it's tough to enjoy it like I once did.
yeah, absolutely.
And because I have nieces now,
Right.
So, and they're all at that age of high school or very early into college, and and I'm not married, but, like, if I heard that, my wife was 16 at one point, this song's creepy as. So that's why I like my music simple.
Right.
Like Poison, you don't have to figure out. But even their songs are, like, sexual based, not necessarily about the underage stuff, but
Like I remember the story about David Lee Roth when he got pissed off at some writer because the writer was like, all they write about is sex, cars, and drugs, and David Lee Roth goes, I haven't written a song about cars, and that's how Panama got written.
I mean, I love David Lee Roth.
Yeah.
His quotes are just.
Doesn't matter if you win or lose; it's how good you looked. I live by that quote. That's part of my one man show, actually.
I mean, he's just iconic in so many. He was. I'm friends with the drummer from Cinderella, Fred Corey, and Fred at one time was thinking of leaving Cinderella. Just in a band,
Yeah.
especially one that's popping like they were, probably egos were getting in the
Mhm.
way. And he said he asked David Lee Roth for advice, and all David Lee Roth said was, "Fred, you buy the land, you get the Indians." Like, what does that mean? Like, Fred was like, "Huh?" But that's like it's David Lee Roth.
Well,
So, yeah, I mean, music and comedy, they're one and the same.
yeah, dude, I'm so glad I had you over. This has been great. We're gonna wrap up real quick before the camera batteries die. How important is a good walk up song, and what is your current walk up song?
It's essential because, like I said, going on last, it's like going on last in a gangbang. Like you've got to, like you're glad you're in the movie. You just wish you went on a little earlier.
That's the reel for this episode. That's the clip.
Well, I had to follow Chappelle one night, Dave
Oh,
Chappelle,
Jesus.
and Danny, the sound guy. Dave didn't even give me an intro. He was so high. He was like, I think there's someone next, and just dropped the mic. And Danny Dangerous, who's the sound man at the Comedy Store, he cranked up Judas Priest Living After Midnight. So I came out singing it. And I got a pretty good voice, actually, like for that kind of a song. And it kept the crowd. So that's my walkout song now. Because, you have to wake them up at that specific hour. And usually the 10:30 show at the store never starts on time because the first show is running behind. So some people may consider it a little hacky to do that. But as you know, I don't care if it's hacky. When you're up there by yourself, and it goes back to what I said about Kill Tony, like, it's just you up there.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have help. So I'll use whatever means necessary, whether it's singing the Judas Priest song or my second go-to song, and it's never not worked. I'm a huge fan of boy bands. You wouldn't think I am.
Right.
And my favorite.
This is news to me, and we've known each other for a long time.
My favorite boy band of all time is a band called the Click Five. And now, do we have time for just a super quick story? So my friend was the number one DJ in Australia, and he did his show at the Warner Brothers building in Burbank. So Sunday night, he asked me to come and do an episode. So I'm driving there, and I look up at the side of the Warner Brothers billboard. It's probably a 10-story building or whatever. It's the band called the Click Five, and they look like the Beatles, 5 of them. So I go up to my buddy's studio. We start. I'm like, hey, who's that band on the side of the building? He's like, oh, they do that song, Just the Girl. And I'm like, he played it for me. I'm like, I was hooked. And I bought all their albums. And they actually had written a song with Paul Stanley. So there were some Kiss ties. And then they were from Boston. Right. And they had all graduated from the Berkeley Music Institute. So they could play their instruments.
Real players. They're real players.
And they did a song called... Just the Girl, and Elliot Easton of the guitars had done the solo. And sometimes when I think the crowds needs a little juice, or maybe a joke didn't do as well as I thought, I'll go, Danny, hit it. And he'll play Just the Girl, and I know the words to perfection. And it's never not gotten the crowd back. Because if you're of that age of like 20 to 40, you were like 2006, if you were a teenager in that range,
right,
you know that song. So, and just the fact that a 56-year-old guy she's just the girl I'm looking for. It's hacky, but I don't care. Jeselnik would not do that.
Right.
He doesn't have to.
Yeah.
I do. I'm like the Kiss of comics.
Which is not a bad place to be.
It's not. I mean, I would love the respect, and I always go to Jeselnik because when he walks into the room, you're like, this is the funniest guy in the room. funniest writer. Like Jeselnik is just like dream theater. His jokes are just precision, and
Love
I'm
that
like,
reference.
you know, there are 5 virtuosos
Yeah.
where I say I'm like the Kiss of comics. Like no one's ever gonna walk out of an Earl Skakel performance and go, "Oh my God, that joke about Rat was awesome." But I also know no one can steal my jokes, because if I ever hear someone doing a joke about Vinnie Vincent, like that's a Skakel joke. Get out of town.
That Geico commercial with Rat in it, one of my favorite commercials of all time. Do you remember that one?
They made more money on that Geico commercial than probably their last 2 albums.
Dude, when I saw that commercial, I was like, this is the best thing.
I mean, I think we have a rat problem. But please watch that
Round.
again, because if you notice the OG it's the only 2 OG guys in that are obviously Stephen Piercy and the bass player Juan Crochet. And you'd think that Juan has been a successful musician for 40 years. Do you remember that episode of the Brady Bunch when Cindy Brady's just staring into the camera? She's on a game show and she freezes.
Vaguely.
And she's literally like that. That's Juan in that commercial. Like, Stephen Piercy's doing the part round and round. The other 2 guys who aren't original members, but they're playing like, they're jamming. Juan Crochet's like you can tell he hadn't been in front of a camera in a hot minute. So
hilarious.
But thank you for and I want to end on this. Now this is your show, but I am a huge fan of the show Bosch.
Oh,
I've watched all 7 seasons, and then they branch out into Bosch Legacy. This man, probably the nicest guy in LA comedy. This shows you how good of an actor he was. So there's a scene where the detectives are doing a shakedown at a downtown jewelry store, and this guy plays the shady jeweler. And man, please, is it Legacy?
It's Legacy.
Season 2 or 3?
Season 2, I think it was episodes 4, 5, 6, and 7, or 3, 4, 5, and 6, something like that.
He's one of the best dudes.
Oh, thank you, man.
First of all, the service. Thank you for your service. Like I'd be a horrible soldier. I'd be like, hey guys, you can go in front of me. Like that's what you do. What you did, like, allows us all to do what we do. So, and you're a great comic and an even better person.
Oh, thank you. My favorite part about that show was when I got the script. And you can ask my girlfriend. I got the script, and anything else that I've done on the level of like network TV has always been like a network comedy. And It's like saved CBS, ABC. When I got the script for Bosch, I was like, the number of F-bombs I get to drop in this episode, and they cut a bunch. So I just walked around. I studied that script for days, and it wasn't a lot. I think I had like a page or 2 per episode. The number of F-bombs I got to drop, I was like, I'm learning this off book. I got on set. The director's like, he knows everyone's lines. I was like, yeah.
Well, that's why you're successful. Like, that's just, it's such a great show, and I'm sad. I hope.
Well, Ballard, there's the spinoff is I think it's in production now, or they just wrapped production. But like I told you before,
What's the spinoff?
There's another character in the Bosch books named Ballard.
Oh, okay.
And the show's called Ballard. And I think the first promo, Bosch was in it. Like he goes to this detective named Ballard. I don't think she has been in any of the other series, but she is, I'm as far as I'm told, pretty significant in the books. I think.
Okay. I mean, I'm a big Michael Connelly guy.
Yeah. So it's Maggie Q.
Oh, okay. Yeah, they did bring her in.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's great. I mean, Titus Welliver is just like, I've been hooked on him since he was Jimmy O and the Sons of Anarchy.
I'll tell you a funny story about Titus,
please,
that I haven't told anybody. So if you haven't watched you've seen the episodes, but I don't make it through the 3 or 4 episodes.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. I get killed. So I'm hanging in the crew area, the cast area, it's me, Titus, and Max Martini, who's in the episode, and Max is a friend of mine. And Max knows that I got shot in Iraq, like for real, in Iraq. So it's me, Max, and Titus. Titus, who plays Bosch. And Max goes, Titus, Tom here got shot in Iraq, like for real. And he's like, what? So I tell him that story, and I made him laugh because I can't help myself. So I told him a joke, made him laugh, and it turns out we have mutual friends. He's friends with an old boss of mine, whatever. So I made him laugh. We shoot the scene where I get killed. I'm like, okay, it was nice working with everybody. I've done my, 3 or 4 days. This was fun. And go home, and my agent rings me and goes, so they need you to come back for another episode. And I'm like, do they know how this episode ended?
Was this the Comedy Store method?
Because I was like, did they read the script? Because I don't make it through this episode. And my agent goes, I guess one of the producers likes you. So he's the only producer I met. Wow. He's the producer on the show. And I was like, is this because I made Titus laugh? He goes, I don't know, but they need you back for another episode. I was like, so I joked myself into another episode of the show.
It's funny. That's how I got brought back on I'm Dying Up Here. I was only supposed to be in one episode, and you and I are very similar. Like, we're just nice to everyone. So I did my gig.
Until we're not.
It's like Patrick Swayze in Roadhouse.
Yeah.
Be nice till it's time not to be nice. Yep. And the main producer, and I could tell this lady was someone very important, because even like, Santino and Eric Griffin and all the like Jake Lacey, they would stiffen up when she walked into the room. Yeah. And she came up to me at the end of my scene, I was just playing a bitter late night comic, so it's pretty believable. And she's like, who are you? Everyone loves you. I'm like, I'm just a Comedy Store guy, late night guy. He's like, we're going to make you a recurring character. And I didn't have a lot of lines.
Right.
Maybe one line an episode, which was nerve-wracking, because in the table reads, it goes around basically in order of importance. Right. So I'm like last. And the guy sitting next to me was the head of Showtime. So the whole table read, I'm just looking at my one line, going, just don't fuck it up. I mean, there was nobody ahead of this guy at Showtime. And but it just goes to show you, good people and nice people, you can get some rewards in this business.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, if you can sleep at night, if you can honestly go to bed and go, I did the best I could, and I'm not a bad person. Like, for me, if I can go to sleep at night and just go, I made some people laugh. I'm not on tour doing arenas like friends and people we know, but like, I had a hard time sleeping when I came home from Iraq. Like, I genuinely, I came back from a war and I couldn't sleep for 2 years. And that was a huge problem. And, until comedy helped me find a way to go, all right, I can sleep at night. Like, I can literally sleep at night for the first time. So,
see, I'm kind of the opposite. Like, I know I'm a great person. And I don't mean that in a cocky way, but like, I always try and get people gigs. I do a lot of behind the scenes stuff I'll never say I do that helps certain people. But I struggle with like, hey, I'm on a lineup with this piece of shit.
Right.
I've got to give them a good intro, or they're usually giving me. I'm usually going on last. Who am I? I'm not bringing up anybody. I struggle with that. Like, that's what keeps me up at night. It's like, what's the point of being a good person? Like, when this person is on a lineup, and then the next night they're on a lineup at another club, and I can't even get an email returned. But that's my problem. It's like, I'm at 56. I'm probably not going to change, like, my way of thinking.
Right.
But that's what I struggle with the most. But just
well, I hope to see you more lineups. I got some shows that I'm going to be booking when I'm back in town, so I will hopefully get you on those if you're around.
Oh, thank you for being just a good person.
Oh, thanks, man.
Comedy's secondary to me. Like, you're a great comic, but like, I'd rather talk about life with you. Thank you for your service and like.
Well, dude, I appreciate it. You're like I said, you're one of those. I don't have a lot of comedy friends, like genuine people I can go, this is a comedian that I'm friends with.
Right.
You're one of the few.
The honor's all mine.
Thank you so much. Where can people find you on the interweb?
I don't want anyone following me. No, I'm just kidding. It's really easy. It's just Earl Skakel, EARL SKAKEL everywhere. There's no funnyman.org. It's just my name.
Well, thank you for following the show. Thanks for watching. New episodes every Tuesday. The List Show will be coming back at some point. We're doing best of the episodes on Thursdays. I'm going to be on tour a lot for the next couple of months. North Carolina, Virginia, DC, doing some stuff in New York later in the year with Brad Williams. But thanks for watching. Tell a friend, like the show, follow us on all the places at Comedy on 11 Pod. I'm at Thom Tran. Thanks for watching. Remember to turn the laughs up to 11.